Indian history. The history of India begins with the birth of the civilization of the Indus Valley, as evidenced by the places of Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and Lothal, which were previously part of the Indian subcontinent. Historically part of ancient India, it is one of the first urban civilizations in the world. Together with Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt in 326 BC, Alexander the Great conquered Asia Minor and the kingdom of Achaemenides when he reached the north-western boundary of the Indian subcontinent, defeated King Porus and conquered most of Punjab. Wave after wave of foreign aggressors came down to India, built empires and left a deep imprint on the history and culture of the country. The main factors that have shaped American Indian politics and led to the broken state of Indian land ownership are countless federal laws and laws. In 1887, Congress passed the General Education Act, which allowed the President, Grover Cleveland, to examine the Indian tribal land and divide the area into allocations for individual Indians and families. Changes to the General Allocation Act have also facilitated the transition of Indian land to non-Indian hands. For example, in 1902, a law was adopted which allowed Indian landowners to sell the land they inherited, even if they were still in trust. So much of India's land has been distributed by Indian hands. Even the US government has been concerned. Allocation not only has resulted in the removal of 90 million acres of Indian land from Indian ownership and control, but also serious consequences, such as the increasingly fractionated ownership of Indian land, checkerboard property patterns on many reservations and the loss of access to important holy sites, to name but a few. The history of India is marked by a long list of battles, as both indigenous and foreign forces are trying to conquer and access the subcontinent's riches. Vijayanagara was the largest, best organized and militaristic Indian state in southern India, which was formed in direct response to Islamic invasions in India. Kohima is located in the eastern Indian state of Narga, close to the Burma border, which was occupied by the Japanese during World War II. In addition, Muslim commercial communities have flourished throughout the South Indian coast, especially on the west coast, where Muslim merchants have come in small numbers, especially from the Arabian Peninsula. Like other established agricultural societies in history, the Indian subcontinent has been attacked by nomadic tribes in its long history. There were several other kingdoms that ruled in the Middle Ages of India before the British occupation. Mysore's alliance with the French was seen as a threat to the British East Indian Company, and Mysore was attacked on all four sides. The history and culture of India is dynamic, reaching the beginning of human civilization. The evidence suggests that the use of iron, copper and other metals was quite common in the Indian subcontinent at a relatively early stage, which indicates the progress made by the region. Nothing was known about civilization until the 1920s, when the Indian Ministry of Archaeology carried out excavations in the Indus Valley, where the ruins of two ancient cities, viz. Agra Fort, an excellent example of Mughal architecture, is one of India's few UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The Gateway to India is a large historical monument built during the period of British domination in India. India is one of the oldest civilizations in the world, with a kaleidoscopic diversity and rich cultural heritage. Sequoia is completing the Cherokee alphabet's work, which makes the Cherokees the only American Indian group to have a written language. President Andrew Jackson is signing the Indian Law on the Move, which calls on the forced American Indians to leave their homes in the west of Mississippi. Approximately 17,000 Cherokees from North Carolina are forcibly removed from the state to the Indian Territory, now Oklahoma. February 10, the state recognizes the Croatian Indians, now known as the Lumbee, as the official Indian tribe of the Indians. Indian history is a subject of interest for many foreigners, because the cultures and civilizations that exist in this subcontinent. The history of India can be divided into three periods: Ancient India, Medieval India, and Modern India. Ancient India can be studied under other heads such as Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and Chalcolithic, depending on the type of stone and metal tools used by people. The growing urbanization of India in the 7th and 6th centuries BC led to the emergence of new ascetic or Shramani movements, which called into question the orthodox rituals. In 520 B.C., during the reign of Darius I of Persia, a large part of the northwest Indian subcontinent, currently east of Afghanistan and Pakistan, was ruled by the Persian Empire of Achaemenides, which was part of the most distant areas. By 326 BC, Alexander the Great had conquered Asia Minor and the Achaemenides Empire and had reached the northwestern boundaries of the Indian subcontinent. The tension between the British and South Asians reached a climax in 1857, when a group of Indian soldiers stood up against the British Army, with catastrophic consequences. Continue your study of Indian and British relations with a detailed look at the British Raj, a period of 90 years of colonialism, from the revolt of 1857 to the independence of the region in 1947.